Azure Logic App is a cloud service from Microsoft that helps you automate and orchestrate tasks, workflows, and processes across various applications, services, and systems. It is excellent for integrating data, services, and all sorts of systems. Like any other powerful tool, it comes with its own set of challenges when dealing with complex business processes. Any complex business logic or process which can't be handled by Azure Logic Apps can be accomplished through Azure Functions. This could be any custom operation such as data transformation, complex calculations, or calling other APIs with custom protocols. This is why the Azure Logic App and Function app, they both together make a powerful combination to implement any complex integration solution. When you combine Azure Logic Apps and Functions, you can create highly flexible, scalable, and powerful integration solutions. When it comes to developer experience, debugging Azure Logic Apps and Function app together is very challenging because they typically run in Azure environment. In most cases, we will be able to replicate and debug the issue by running the Azure function locally and simulating the request through REST client tools like Postman. But what if you are not able to replicate it locally? Think of this. How nice it would be to hit your local Azure function debug point from Azure Logic App running in Azure environment. Your fault finding will be super quick and saves a lot of time. In this video, we will look into how can we reach locally running Azure Function debug point from Azure Logic App which is running in Azure environment. Hi, this is Shri. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, I do blogging and make YouTube videos on Azure and .NET. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button and help me grow this channel. Let's start now. I'm in my Azure portal. I have a simple Logic app and the Function app. In the Function app, I have a simple sample function. This sample function takes the JSON as an input and it returns the same JSON as an output. Very simple and basic function. Then this function is called from Logic app. This is in fact my Logic app. If I go to the Logic app designer, in the Logic app, we are invoking the Azure function using two actions. For the demo purpose, we don't need this one. Let me quickly delete this one and hit a save. Azure function is invoked via HTTP post action. This is Azure function URL, and to the Azure function we are passing the file content. This file content is retrieved from Azure Blob Storage. If I go to the Blob Storage, this is a large JSON file. This is the best use case to demonstrate this one. In this case, the JSON file size is almost all 25 MB. And we are passing this JSON file to the Azure function for further processing. Now, if I quickly run the Azure function, let's go to the overview and look at the run history. It's running. Hit a refresh. Okay, the Logic app run is successful. What we are doing here is we are simply reading the content of the JSON file, which is in the blob storage, this one, and passing the file content to the Azure function and returning the same Azure function. And if I look at the input content, this is base 64 format. But if I were to look at the output, the same output, it is a very huge JSON, 25 MB of JSON. If you are dealing with this kind of huge JSON file or images and we have data related issues, then debugging Azure Logic App with Azure function running in your local is very helpful. We're going to see how we're going to invoke Azure function local debug point from the Azure Logic App which is running in Azure environment. To do this, we're going to use a tool called NGROK. NGROK is a powerful tool that provides a secure way to expose your local web service to the internet. It provides a public URL for your local server and tunnels the request to your local machine. This means that you can run and debug your function app locally and have the Logic apps or any other external systems interact with it. Now let's see how we can use this one. This has a free and paid version. We're going to use the free version for this demo. I already have an account, so I'm going to use my account to log in. If you don't have one, you can sign up from here. Let me log into my account first. Once you are into your account, you can download the NGROK tool from here. Simply open this zip file and unzip it. Once you extract the zip file, you're going to see the NGROK tool. You can directly run this. Now, if I go into my Visual Studio IDE, this is the function which we deployed into Azure Functions. Let me quickly run this function locally first. It is running now. It is running on a port 7006. Now, let's go to our Azure function and put a breakpoint here. And let's try and see if we can hit this breakpoint from Azure Logic App, which is running in Azure environment. So for that, we need to go to our NGROK tool and expose local web server port 7006 to the internet. Let's do that. We just need to connect our account to the NGROK. Just follow the instructions and connect your account. Once that is done, we are ready to go. We can expose our local port to the internet using a simple command. Let's do that. If I go here to the NGROK, simply we can run NGROK HTTP. In our case, the port number is 7006. Cool. So your port has been now exposed to the internet. It will be reachable using this public URL. Simply copy this URL and keep this open. Go to Azure Logic App, Logic App Designer, open our Azure Function HTTP action, and here simply use the public URL which would route the request to our local web server. Hit save. So the Logic App is saved successfully. Now the public URL will route the request to our local web server. What we can do is we can simply go to our Logic App and run the Logic App. So it's running. If you see here, you can see a post request already, and soon you're gonna get breakpoint here. There you go. So we see the post API sample request here on the NGROK login, and you have a breakpoint hitting. If you simply do an F12 here, you can see the request body, which is very huge JSON payload. If you were to view this 25 MB size data in JSON viewer inside the Visual Studio, probably it might stuck, at least for my machine. This is how you can route the request from Azure environment to your local Azure function, and you can debug any issues which are related to the huge JSON payload, or could be the images, or it could be related to any custom protocol. I can simply let it go, and this is done. And if I see here, the sample request is completed, and even if I go to my app, hit a refresh, so it took 1.89 minutes because we kind of hold it on the local server debugger point for a while. I hope this trick will help you in troubleshooting these kind of issues. That is it for this video. I will catch you in the next video. Until then, this is Shri signing off. Thank you.